I'm Nancy Nielsen. I'm the Certification Programs Consultant for the National Dropout Prevention Center. I would like to talk to you for a moment about the field study that is a requirement of our National Dropout Prevention Specialist Certification Program. There are 23 elements in the field study, but the thing to remember is it's not a dissertation. It is a record of your practical application of one or more of the effective strategies. It's how you want to either make your program stronger or to introduce some new ideas into what you may be already doing, because we find that the best field studies come from the program that you're actually using. They're very organic to what you're already doing. The first question that we ask, other than the title page, which has your name and title and contact information, the actual field study asks you to start off with a description of the funding sources. If you have received grant money or your district has committed funds to the project that you're building or growing, then you can outline that information there. Sometimes we don't have additional funds, and it's just our own efforts that are used to build these programs. And so you can always say that no additional funding was required for this project. The important thing is to not leave any blank spaces. The second expectation is that you will describe your program budget and the cost narrative. And if you could be as descriptive as possible, this really helps. Then we go on to the program description. This is where you get to say the what, the how of what you're doing. And to some degree, this is where you begin to speak to the effective strategies and how you use those to come up with this idea for the program or to expand something that you're already doing. We'd like to know about your staffing patterns. Is this something that you're doing on your own and expanding your job role? Or in some cases, we have teams that develop projects, and so who and how many are involved in the process, and what are their job titles, and what roles did they play in implementing the project. We want to know about the population that you serve. What grade level are you working with? What, if any, special groups are you working with? If you're working with special education students or ELL learners, that's where it's helpful to know what your project is, who your project is directed to. And then we would like to know the project origination. How did you come up with this idea? What were the things that led you into beginning this project and seeing it through? We want to know what issues you addressed. Are you looking at students with stress and trauma? Or are you looking at truancy issues? Are you looking at behavior or learning indicators? What kind of school-based issues will your project address? We want to know what your outcomes are. What do you hope to achieve by conducting this project? And this again helps for you to be as specific as possible. What were your goals? What were your time frames? What were the strategies and the steps that you used to meet the ultimate goal of the project? The next thing we'd like to know is about those specific strategies. This is where you can pull in the effective strategies, and perhaps you want to reach out to people in your community, so you're going to use school community collaboration. And as a National Dropout Prevention Specialist participant, you're going to have the information to be a targeted voice in the community to really bring some resources in to your schools. That's one example of how you can use a particular strategy to build a program. Then we'd like to know what the results were. Did you conduct this study over the course of a school year? Over the course of 2 school years? And when you did that, did you meet your goals? Go back and readdress those goals and talk about the results. Sometimes we have some unintended results, and sometimes the results are not what we thought they might be. So you can address that during this section. We again want to know the timeline. How long did you conduct this project for? Is it ongoing, or was it a time-based project? Any outcomes that are related to school completion in particular, we would like to know about. How did the implementation of this project help more students graduate or stay on track for graduation? Were there any special conditions? We realized that in the last 2.5 years, we've had a lot of special conditions. And so we've had some field projects that have said, we started out this way. Due to the pandemic, we had to revise or sometimes completely redo our project. And so if there are any special conditions that are going on, we want to know about that as well. The last 3 sections we ask you to do are very personal reflections. As a participant in the National Dropout Prevention Certification Program, we want to know what role did you play in the implementation and planning of this project. We want to know what lessons you learned. Again, as I said, sometimes we start out in one direction and we find we move to another direction. And so what were those lessons that you learned? Did everything work out the way you thought it would? Or what did you gain from, knowledge did you gain from this experience? And the last thing we ask you to do is to give advice to others. The entire purpose of the field project is, as I said, to demonstrate your practical application, but the extended purpose is that others may want to replicate what you're doing. You might work in a rural high school with limited resources, and someone might see you as a resource because they also work in that setting, and they might contact you for information or read your field study. We want you to have enough information in that can let people know who might want to do the same kinds of things. How would they go about starting this? How much is it going to cost? What people do I need to have involved? And what is the outcome expected? As far as the length, I'm going to say the same thing I used to say to my high school English students. It needs to be long enough to answer the questions and help us to understand that, and others to understand. So the length is not as important as the content and the substance. I've seen some fairly short, really deep field studies, and I've seen some that are lengthier, and whatever works for you to get those ideas across, that's what we're looking for.